Jacob, welcome to A Moment with Adele. So Jacob, I heard that you're all these things, these people, and yet it's all rolled up into one. Tell me about yourself.
Well, my name is Jacob Charlot. I'm originally from Marshville, Louisiana. I grew up there. Wind up going to Slidell, Louisiana, and I wind up graduating, high school there, and wind up going to college for about maybe 2 years before I got taught to go into the military, and that was in the Air Force. And that was, my uncle was like, hey, you know what? If you go in the Air Force, they'll cover your, expenses and everything. And I was thinking when I went into college, I want to do physical therapy. So that's what led me. I was like, you know what? Go in the military, that covers the medical costs and stuff like that. Okay, let's do it. So then 2000, I went into the military. And I went to United States Air Force. I wind up getting stationed at Vandenberg about 6 months later. And I worked with the 76 helicopter flight, the 3rd Space Command. So we dealt a lot with NASA. My particular job was doing survival. Unfortunately, after about 3 years, getting into my 4th year, I wind up getting blood condition. So this was called, it's having blood clots in your chest, and it also requires that you have swelling in your calf as well. So the name of the disease is actually called antiphospholipid syndrome.
Wow.
So basically it's like having clots all over, and you actually have swelling in the bottom parts of your legs and behind the knee. So that's what happened to me, and that was started in August of 2001. And actually, I was actually training for my first bodybuilding show when I was doing that as well. So it just sprung up all of me all of a sudden.
Wow.
But
yeah, what were the symptoms? Initial symptoms.
The initial symptoms were basically, first it started with, felt like I had a rock in the bottom of my foot.
Oh, wow.
And it was like having a cramp, but you can't stretch it out. And then from there, after about 2 weeks, it went from the cramp in my foot to, it traveled up to the back of my knee because my knee started hurting a bit. And then my leg started swelling. I mean, it swelled up twice the size of my right leg.
Wow.
And from August to September, by the end of September, right after 9/11, it started affecting my breathing.
Wow.
And I didn't know anything was wrong, so I started doing more cardio. And I was training a friend of mine, his name is Bill, and we wound up training together. He was training me for my first show, in addition to me flying and all these things. So then it was that Thursday, I remember after 9/11 had happened, maybe a few weeks later, when everything, it seemed to subside, calm down and stuff, our commander said, family day off. Okay, cool. So by that time, I was having trouble breathing and all this, and I wind up going to see the doctor, flight doctor, and he kind of took a look at me and stuff. He was like, you having trouble breathing? I was like, yeah. I was like, I had this for about a couple months now, and it just progressed. So he took one look at me, and he just kind of had this weird concerned look in his face. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to send you to the hospital real quick. But he never told me what he was, suspected, but
right.
Sent me to the hospital, and I wind up doing an MRI over there. And a nurse and doctor came in there, ran a little gun to my leg and stuff, and find one little clot. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'm thinking family day weekend, 4 days off. Make a long story short, no sooner than I'm thinking about this, 15 minutes later, the nurse comes back in there with a wheelchair. I was like, oh no, just send me to the pharmacy. And she's like, no. You gotta go to the ER. You don't realize how serious this is.
Wow, yes.
And I wind up staying in the hospital for about, my goodness, a good week. And people thought when my commander called, he thought it was dead. Because I should have had a heart attack almost 6 weeks ago when I had that.
Wow, that's interesting.
But from that, I wind up having to tell my parents, which was really hard, and that was the most toughest thing. So they were still trying to figure out why I had what I had, but at the same time, they told me I had to do a medical profile that following year. And I had to go from California to Lackland a bunch of times. And to make a long story short, as much as we tried to fight for me staying in, They're like, no, we have to get a medical profile on you and you won't be able to stay in because we don't even know what you have and you're very young, so.
And by staying, you mean in the military?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a blow.
Yeah.
And, how did you overcome that? Because now you're faced with this condition and it's disruptive to what you have going on. And then you're probably not ready to leave yet. And then you're asked to leave, something that you probably had grown to love.
My plans were like, hey, I wanted to go to OTS. And OTS is officer training school.
Oh.
So I'm still thinking medical.
Yes.
Because I love physical therapy and the training aspect. But unfortunately, I just started to learn more and more about my faith and stuff. And that was one of the things my parents really was proud of me about, was really that. And having what I had and almost died, it definitely made me think like, wow, no matter if I'm in the hospital, no matter what I do, accolades, money, I could be gone the next day. So it really caused me to rethink everything. So I began to use that with what I had, because I wound up getting medical discharged in 2002. And even though I only had like a couple years of college and I wanted to finish up, that was a promise I made to my parents and my grandmother, and I was like, you know what, I'm still gonna do this. So I wind up, having to wait a little bit, maybe a few months or so, and I wind up getting into college. And I went to a college, it was called Everest College. So I wound up getting medical assisting and I wanted to do radiology. So then I wound up going there, and in the midst of that, of getting my medical assistant certificate and everything else, I was thinking, okay, what else can I do? Because I had to think outside the box.
Right.
While I'm sitting there waiting. So in the meantime, I actually went and, they had just, I just decided, okay, maybe if I go to LA, there's more schools there. There's 4-year schools. So I started looking there, and lo and behold, I found a school that was there, which was Everest College, and that's where I graduated from. So in the midst of that, I had to find something else more, because they wanted not just a medical assistant, they wanted a nurse. So I was like, I can't win for losing here, but something told me, no, just keep going. Just keep going.
So you became a nurse?
I wanted to actually go into radiology and just do the full doctorate program, but they phased it out prior to me graduating.
Oh.
But I was fortunate enough to work in like a pediatrics clinic, work with kids and stuff. But in the midst of that, I wind up getting a little bit back into training. And that was as I was, doing college and everything else, trying to figure out what's going to be next. I wind up doing gym equipment and stuff like that, getting into training more. Won my first bodybuilding championship as well while doing that. And in the midst of that, finally, when I got to LA, and I was kind of settled down and was kind of looking, I met a guy by the name of Martin, and he introduced me to his friend, Dat Fan, and I wind up getting into a little bit in acting.
Wow.
He started telling me about, oh, you have that look, you should get into acting more. I was like, I was thinking medical, but I was like, I don't even know the first thing about acting.
So you were guided. Mm-hmm. Do you feel guided?
Yeah. I felt guided.
Something guided you to, all right.
And I think the biggest thing was that coming from Louisiana to California, it was all new to me. So I'm a country boy and coming to a city, so I was used to cows, chickens, and everything else.
Yes. Tell me about something that happened when you got here that really left a mark on your life.
Okay. First time eating sushi.
Okay, sushi.
Yes.
Okay.
Went to a restaurant.
Tell me about that.
Went to a restaurant, and I was looking at the menu, and our cousin's like, "Hey, I want you to try sushi." I was like, "Okay, what's sushi?" I was like, "Oh, it's like raw fish and stuff like that, And
you're
also,
from Louisiana.
Yeah, so we like stuff well cooked.
Right. Yes. And
I'm used to barbecue chicken and everything, and they're telling me like, "Okay, well, this is raw." I'm like, "Is this safe?" I mean, So here we go. We go and he gets a big old huge plate of eel. and then he gets like these fish eggs,
Wow.
and then also we get this tuna fish, and all of it's all raw. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fun. If it kills me, I'm
blaming it on you. Yes, indeed. Yes,
so
indeed.
we decide, so I tried a little bit of it, and actually, to tell you the truth, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And it kind of opened my eyes to a little bit as far as, the food here compared to food in Louisiana. Both are good. Both are acquired. Like some food here is an acquired taste. But it kind of broadened my horizons as to, going from sushi, but it made me realize that over time, how everything transitioned. Like I had to transition from the military to going to LA to doing all these other things that I've done. I had to be more open-minded to stuff.
Right.
And I had to try something new.
Right.
Because I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm out of my element.
And so when you said that someone introduced you to acting, how does that fit into what you just said? You said that you had to adjust and to something that was not in your comfort zone.
I think having a blood condition made me adjust a little bit, because I had to start taking like shots in the stomach twice a day. So that's something I had to start doing, and that's not the funnest thing, but at the same time, it's something I had to adjust to, but also I had to look at my condition as a strength instead of a weakness.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though most people would think like, oh my goodness, that's sad, but I had to look at it as like, okay, you know what? If I'm here thus far, there must be other things that I can do.
Okay. So that's how
So now, let me see what else we can build off of based off of that.
That's good thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes when an individual is hit with such a dismal diagnosis, we all have a little thing here and there, but something that, is so overwhelming as having blood clots, that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on, how did you adjust and enter the field of acting?
I wind up meeting two good friends, Martin and Dat Fan and stuff. And so as I started to follow them, he was kind of going on tour and stuff. So I went to a few of the shows in addition to working, and it kind of hit me. They were like, you know what, here, just go to this place and you could send a picture and they'll start putting you to work and stuff. So I was like, all right, let me just give this a shot. Why not? So I went to the casting place in Burbank, and no sooner than that, I got my first. It was like a background role, and that was for a show called Raising the Bar. It was like a lawyer show, and so I was just doing background work. But at the same time, when I did it, I didn't look at it as like, oh my goodness, it's like, what am I doing? I look at it as like, okay, this is like it's a fun job, this is interesting.
So you were in the movie The Little Frockers, but I love that movie. I love the series. And so, what was your role there?
I was actually an art male model.
Okay.
So they came to the school, Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller, and they were actually, you saw the kids drawing, and I was in the middle as a model standing there, my feet spread apart, and they were drawing me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So would you say that particular role led to others?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, good.
It was one of those, from Little Fockers, it actually led me to doing a show called Deadliest Warrior. So I played an Aztec warrior versus Zande, and I was a Zande warrior.
Okay.
And so that was on Spike TV.
How did you said you're a martial arts performer.
Correct.
How did that incorporate into your acting career?
Well, when I first started martial arts, I did it under my sensei Jacob. He's from Israel. So I started using the martial arts as a way of self-defense, but also when you're doing it on camera, it actually helps with awareness, It actually helps with, using it in a scene. It actually helps with emotion.
Okay. You said awareness. In what way?
Let's say, for instance, if you're walking down the street you got to be aware of your surroundings as you hit that. And so when you're around people and you're doing a scene and they say, okay, I want you to do a fight scene, then you got to be aware of all the cameras. You got to be aware of where the person is, because you don't want to hit anything.
I see.
But at the same time, you want to make the scene look really good.
I see.
But being a martial artist, you also want to bring out the realistic of it. But at the same time, you want to also make sure that nobody gets hurt as well.
Okay. So how did the martial arts tie into your movie career?
The martial arts, when I first did the show Deadliest Warrior, that was the first thing that tied into the martial arts.
Okay.
Because you're using swords and you're shooting bow and arrows and everything else and all. You had to fight.
So did this condition affect you, and how so, during your filmmaking career?
During the filmmaking career, it affected me to the point of where I kept having clots and going to the hospital in addition to working. So a lot of times I may have been able to do a, co-starring role or audition, and it actually, before I even got a chance to go that, I wind up having a clot in the bottom of my leg, and it actually got worse. I think it was 2009 where I had clots in the right leg, But again, I had to look at it. I always look at it as a strength and not a weakness. Right. So it's like, okay, so how can I make me better every single year?
So if you don't mind sharing, how often in a year have you had to go to the hospital or had disruptions in your career because of this condition?
Make a long story short, I'd probably say over 22 years, I've been in the hospital over 18, 19 times, admitted as much as that. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's to me now, it's become a strength. It's something that I have to deal with, but it's something that it's forced me to, it's made me stronger internally. It's made me stronger faith-wise, but it also allowed me to take all these acting opportunities as blessings.
Yes, yes. Okay, Jacob, you've told me about all these things that have happened to you, and your journey, which is very, very interesting, very engaging. Now tell me about some things that have happened to you on set that has etched in your mind, something that you can share with the audience.
In addition to doing acting, I did a little bit of modeling. And one of the things that happened was that I was, they wanted me to do something different. And I like doing unique things. So it's like, okay, you know what? They're like, here, pretend that you're standing over the water or whatever. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I was like, you know what? Maybe if I do a jump split, that might be something unique.
Ooh.
So then that's what I did. However, I didn't realize that there were a camera here. And so
they caught it all on camera.
Exactly, and I almost hit the cameras, but at the same time, it went out to be a really cool shot.
In a movie, or did they start using you as a stunt in a movie?
Because of that. When I did that, that's when I actually got the scene for Little Fockers.
Oh, okay.
They sent that particular picture when I was doing a jump split in that.
Wow. Yeah, so it led to something. It was not just a spur of the moment. It wasn't a spur of the moment occasion. Well,
the one thing that happened from that was that I actually had to get knee surgery. Maybe that was about a year after that. And one of the things that happened was that I couldn't do any more jumping as much as I wanted to. So then I had to transition from the stunts and start working on more acting skills.
Oh, okay.
So then I wind up going into acting classes and doing scene study. And then lo and behold, once I did that, I wind up going into meeting a good friend of mine. His name is Craig. And we wind up doing a show. It's called Matchstick Flame. And I played Akeem. So that was the first acting improv movie that I've actually did.
Good.
So it incorporated improv, but most so acting and improv. So then that was the first transition I did from going from stunts to acting, and I started liking acting more.
Yes, yes indeed. And so where are you now in your acting career?
Well, right now, I just completed Space Command. in which I played a battle synth in there. I actually did, from Space Command, we did drone, and did movie premiere for drone, and I played Knight, and I'm actually a drone pilot. And I actually worked on Matchstick Flame 2, which is another martial arts film. And that one, I play Akeem again, but I'm part of a mafia gang.
How do you see yourself a year from now?
Okay. How do I see myself a year from now? I see myself a year from now as actually getting stronger.
Okay.
Mentally, physically, and also accomplishing more as an actual actor, you know, and getting stunts as well. But at the same time, also using that platform to inspire others.
Good.
And that's the thing I've actually worked on the last 2 years.
Yes.
So finishing my degree, I was able to get my degree in forensics. I was able to do my degree in personal training. And these are things that have actually helped me in my career, that transition into acting.
How have you used the degree in forensics?
With the degree in forensics, of course, you're dealing with a lot of the mental capabilities of people. You're dealing with domestic violence and all these mental issues that people are dealing with today. So when you're going on set, it's easier to go into character if you're dealing with someone that has a mental issue, or if you're talking to someone, you know, or if someone's going through different problems. So, and basically that's how I've been able to use that and bring the emotion out of it, because from experience, but also from actually, you know, the classes and knowledge and just talking with people in general.
So Jacob, thank you again for joining me. And if anyone wanted to find you, where can they find you?
Well, first of all, you can find me on Instagram
Good.
at JKCHARLOT, and that's the public Instagram page that I use. Also, you can find me on IMDb under Jacob Charlot, and that is the 2 pages that I actually have currently, and website I'm working on.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's allowed. Thank you again for joining me and sharing your life story.
Thank you.
And thank you, audience, for joining me. This is A Moment with Adele, and I'm Adele, your host. Remember to join me next time.